In the morning, you got me up, all cause you need to talk. To 4 in the evening, wanna break up, say that you've had enough. I'm tired of talking, again and again, argue about everything. You are my darling, this kiss and make up, I know you wanna touch. You call me every night, call me every day, I just wanna get you alone now. Trust me when I say, we gon' be okay, we just gotta boom bada boom ba. I don't wanna fight, you know that I'm right. Baby, let me talk to your body. We gon' be okay, hear me when I say.
I told you guys last night, okay? All right, come out and play according to our DNA. All right? And that last element of our DNA is what? That's what you guys did today. That's what you guys did today. All right? The one thing I told you last night, man, I respect the hell out of this group right here. All the adversity that you guys have gone through all this year, all the different it's, and you found a way to circle the wagons and come together and win one more. Yes, that's what it's all about. All right, we had guys down. All right, guys stepped up. Barno and special teams came up with a help. I got one ball right here. Eddie Williams!
I appreciate you guys. Thank you so much, man, through the adversity, and love you guys, man.
Turning now to big breaking sports news. The Carolina Panthers have a brand new head coach.
There he is. His name is Frank Reich. Kate Rogerson joining us now with more on this big new deal for the Panthers. Kate?
Frank Reich, the first ever quarterback to play for the Carolina Panthers in 1995, is coming back to Carolina. The Panthers agreed to terms with Frank Reich to make him the 6th head coach in franchise history. Now, the Panthers centered their head coaching search around ways to address that quarterback position and how they can fix the offensive side of the ball. According to reports, there were 9 different candidates for the job. It came down to Reich and former interim head coach Steve Wilks. Reich's offensive-minded approach made him the right guy for the job. Reich comes to Carolina after getting fired mid-season by the Colts. In each of his seasons at Indianapolis, the Colts had 5 different quarterbacks. And part of the reasoning behind that dismissal was simply because of the fact that the Colts could not find their own franchise quarterback. Reich will have his hands full trying to complete that same task in Charlotte. Now,
it's not my fault. You've been lying, saying that I took away your peace. Drowning by yourself, now you wanna blame me. Like you have no options. I ain't take your options. Nah, I'm not the problem. Man, that's on you, yeah. You've been terrorizing me, yeah, I'm always wrong. I knew you lost your mind when you dropped that bomb. Girl, are you crazy? Yeah, you must be crazy. I've been thinking lately it's you. You stole your peace, put it on me. But baby, it's you. Lie like a ride, but take your stuff back. Baby, it's you. Baby, it's you. Whatever, and I would never. You've been flexing everywhere. Girl, look in the mirror. Man, you so dirty. Yeah, you look so dirty. You were never worthy. Lately it's you. You stole your peace, put it on me. But baby, it's you. Lying like alright, but take your stuff back. Baby, it's you. Baby, it's you. If I control the weather, then every day would rain on your parade. Shine, you can't shed hate, yeah. If I was Father Time, then I would change the day. So I never saw your face. Please, what do I have to do to make you go? Oh, baby, it's you. It's you. It's you. It's you. Walk out that door, no, yeah.
Tried to count me out, I'ma gon' count me in. Fill up my bank account, now I got something to spend. They tried to count me out, I'ma gon' count me in. Fill up my bank account, now I got something to spend. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I just pull it out and count for nothing when I'm feeling great. Give my baby little more just to spend it, and I'm always on go, I don't hesitate. Used to always know I make it, yeah. I'm in the grave, yeah. See my record, had to set it straight, yeah. I make the kid like 10 times 10. I got wires coming in, some in euros, some in sec, some in dollars, some in yen. I've been trying to keep my zen, keep my cool. Trying to keep the family fed, get my food. They tried to count me out, I'ma gon' count me in. Fill up my bank account, now I got something to spend. They tried to count me out, I'ma gon' count me in. Fill up my bank account, now I got something to spend. Did it, do it. I did it all, no gimmicks. I did it all, no fibbing. Now I got all these children, now I got all these clones. Now I got all you twinning, now I got all you thinking like all you winning. They tried to count me out, they tried to fill that doubt. They tried to ride my whip, they tried to knock me out. They tried to count my wins, they tried to show my L's. They tried to make me in, they tried, but where they now? Where they? Step in the spot and they stare at me. All of these battles will bear me. I swear that nothing compares to me. Feeling blessed, I won't stress. Beat the odds, you know the rest. They tried to count me out, I'ma gon' count me in. Fill up my bank account, now I got something to spend. They tried to count me out, I'ma gon' count me in. Fill up my bank account, now I got something to spend.
All right, guys. The link has been dropped. Let's have a conversation. If you guys want to come up and have a conversation and talk about racism, if you have been a victim or impacted by racism, let's have a conversation. If not, I'm going to end this stream. But there have been a lot of brothers talking about it. Some have been frustrated. And I would love to hear you guys' points of view. I'm concerned in this matter. So this is a live call in. The link has been dropped. If you want to come in and add what you want to add to this particular matter, please do. But if no one comes up, I end the stream. So in the meantime, while I'm waiting for someone to come up and more or less talk about this issue of race, is there a race issue in the NFL? Does it still exist? And if so, have you been impacted by racism? Has racism impacted your mental health in a negative way? So the link has been dropped, guys. Feel free to come up and let's have a conversation. But in the meantime, I'm going to play this music.
To the
link is dropped, guys. If you want to come on, add to the show and talk about the issue concerning the NFL and if racism is an issue in the NFL. Feel free to tune in. Feel free to add to the show, guys, because this is very important. As it appears that race is still a factor or an issue in America.
what she make like. I'm a star, got no stage fright. Please don't get me mad, I'm a nice guy. My baby say I'm cute, yeah, I'm type 5. I be waking up when you go night-night. In a different zone, wasting time. Laugh it to the bank like, ha 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 ha. Ooh, go. Laugh it to the bank like, ha 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 ha. I got it in 10s, 20, 50, 100s, 10s, 20, 50, 100s, 10s, 20, 50, 100s, 10s, 20, 50, 100s. I get it up, flip it and continue. I've been going dumb, I've been going mental. Going up, I'm on another level. All black clothes like a medal. Little this and this, little Rick and Rick. It's my grandmama, I'm her Nicky Nick. I just wanna love, but I've been hit or miss. I might up and leave, yeah, take a pic. Laugh it to the bank like, ha 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 ha. Go. Laugh it to the bank like, ha 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 ha. I got it in 10s, 20, 50, 100s, 10s, 20, 50, 100s, 10s, 20, 50, 100s, 10s, 20, 50, 100s.
All right, guys, if you want to call into the show, the link has been dropped. Live call in. Does racism still exist in the NFL? And was Steve Wilks given a bad deal? You don't have to be on camera, dear. You can just have your avatar on Almanaz if you would like to add to the conversation. But in the meantime, guys, the link has been dropped. I can't talk by myself. I'm going to play some more music in a few minutes. No one comes up, don't want to talk about this issue about the NFL and racism, then we're going to end this stream. So in the meantime, listen to some music until someone comes up. Thank you.
Money line, I'ma run it every time. Give me mine, going up, need no decline. Money line, I'ma run it every time. Give me mine, going up, need no decline. Yeah. Why check Castro, yeah, I need mine. Why check Castro?
Awesome. How you doing, sister? What's going on? Can you hear me? Hello.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, ma'am. What's going on? How would you like to add to the conversation about race and doesn't exist in the NFL?
I'm having a lot of trouble hearing you. What's going on?
You can't hear me?
Is that working? I'm not hearing anything.
You can't hear me?
Not at all. Hang on. Let me talk to that.
All right, guys, the link has been dropped. Please come in. Almanaz is up. What do you guys feel about this issue regarding race? And is there an issue in the NFL with race? The link has been dropped, but in the meantime, I'll continue to play this music.
Okay.
Yeah. Can you hear me?
I got it. I can.
All right.
Good evening. How are you?
I'm doing great.
I'm well.
Great. You popped off. Yeah, you popped off. All right, I want to hear from some of the brothers and also Almanaz when she popped back on, but is there an issue in the NFL with race, and how did that impact the mental health of black men, guys, in you all's opinion? The link has been dropped once again. I'm going to play this music, and I'll wait for you guys to come in, so hold tight.
Money line, I'ma run it every time. Give me mine, going up, need no decline. check Castro, yeah, and I need my ass. Why I check Castro, yeah, and I need my money line. Why I check Castro, yeah, and I need my money line. Why I check Castro, yeah, and I need my.
All right. Almanaz, can you hear me, ma'am?
I can.
All right, there you go, ma'am. So how would you add to the conversation and this debacle of Steve Wilkes not getting the head coach position in the NFL?
It's shameful. For me, the fact he even had to have an interview, he had a 12-game interview. That was more than enough. He didn't need an interview. So it sounds to me that was just to satisfy the Rooney Rule.
Fair enough. But that's
so.
Yeah, go ahead. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm actually in Charlotte.
Okay, well, perfect. That's great. That matters even more. What are you hearing from the fans down in Charlotte, Almanaz, about, sadly, Steve Wilkes not getting that position? Is there a lot of consternation, a lot of bickering, a lot of arguing? And what are you hearing from the people in Charlotte?
People I've talked to as I've been out and about since this news broke are not happy at all.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people not really include myself, as I figured at some point he was going to get the shaft, but really thought that Steve was going to be the next coach.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, it's just not, people here in Charlotte not excited. I mean, They really haven't been excited with Tepper at all. So from what I'm seeing as a season ticket holder with him, we could have just stayed with Richardson. It's really no difference.
So you're not a fan of David Tepper, and if so, why?
No, because I feel like he's shown that he bought the Panthers to use that as an avenue to get soccer here.
Gotcha.
That's what happened.
Gotcha. Well, even though the interim still have to interview. That's just part of the process. Whether you're white or black, that's part of the process. But I do agree with you that he definitely should have been a candidate, and they should have got a high-end offensive coordinator. What's your take on the hiring of Frank Reich? And I don't know if you have brothers, but do you feel like some of your brothers have gone through the same thing that Steve Wilkes has gone through, meaning that they feel like their good is never good enough? What's your take on that?
Yeah, definitely. Well, I'm a lifelong Philadelphia Eagle fan, so I mean, I like Frank, but not here.
Really?
Yeah, we need him. First off, we need him back in Philadelphia, but he had 3 so-called top tier, elite quarterbacks, and you couldn't make it work.
Right. Well,
because he started out with Andrew Luck, and then he got mad and quit, and then he had Carson Wentz when he's supposed to be the next coming, and then you had Matt Ryan. You couldn't get anything done with 3 of them.
Well, I will say this for Reich. Quarterback instability does play a role in your team not doing well to some degree. I mean, that plays a role. And I think Jim Irsay was meddling in that particular issue as well.
Yeah, he ruined the team in the first place way back when Tony Dungy was the coach.
Who's that? You talking about Frank Reich?
Irsay.
Irsay, right, Irsay.
He needs to sit down and be quiet because he's another one that's disrespectful to black people who built him.
Right. So let me ask you a question. What do you say to the critics, Almanaz, to say that's all people use is the race car? I personally don't believe in using the race car per se, but I do believe that there is a race issue in the hiring of black coaches. You can't convince me that you got over 80% of your players are black, but when it comes down to power positions, it's only one damn black coach. You can't convince me that's not an issue. Even though coaches have a right to hire who they want to hire, owners have a right to hire who they want to hire, guys that got lesser records. So when Steve Wilkes was the coach at Arizona, they fired him after 1 year.
Shameful. That should still be a stain on the NFL. That was shameful.
Right. They fired him after 1 year, but then they ball on a coach in Cliff Kingsbury that had, a losing record in college or 7. He was like average, and he had several losing records before they fired him. When you talk to your brothers, I don't know if you got brothers or a husband or black men in your life, but do they resonate with this lack of hiring or lack of racial diversity when it comes down to black head coaches? Because I actually was talking to my brother about this earlier. He's in the next room. When we were actually having that conversation that, he's, as a black man,
all of us were raised as, Black people. We have to be, 5 times as better to get half of what other races get.
I agree with that, right.
For them, being a Black man, they definitely is like, here, like my dad was like, here we go again.
Right.
But like another part of the conversation we were having, he was like, a lot of Black people do try to use the race card, but those who are in a position to, kind of debunk that don't. Like we were talking, and one of the ways to try to get this situation under control is Black men stop interviewing for these coaching positions when you just there to satisfy the Rooney Rule. Hold up their process until they take you seriously.
That's an excellent point.
And it's always it's the same 2 or 3 Black dudes that keep interviewing. They just go round and round and round and round and round, the same 2 or 3.
Well, what I find appalling, Armanaz, is that, Jim Caldwell, even though I didn't want Jim Caldwell to be the coach, but he's way more decorated than some of these young offensive coordinators, these young white offensive coordinators. He
never should have been fired from Indianapolis.
You talking about Jim Caldwell?
And he definitely shouldn't have been fired in Detroit.
Tell me why.
When they give these black men these coaching positions when they have less than nothing to work with. Like if you go back to Steve Wilkes in Arizona, he had nothing on either side of the ball. So how are you going to expect me to turn around a franchise when you don't give me anything? And in the minute you get rid of me, you work a couple backdoor deals, and now you got Kyler Murray, who they've ruined. That's another thing. The Black quarterbacks, if you look at the trajectory of them from college to when they get to the NFL, it's like they're on a campaign. So we're just going to ruin these Black quarterbacks. Like if you look at Kyler, since I just mentioned him, Lamar Jackson, and since we're here in Charlotte, I'm going to talk about Cam Newton. 3 Black quarterbacks who managed to win the Heisman. All of them have a Heisman. And get to the NFL, and your whole plan for them is just run. So when they run to try to, save themselves, they get hurt.
Right.
Because Carolina completely ruined Cam Newton. I had a ringside seat for that, so I can attest.
I agree with you on that.
They ruined him. Arizona's on their way to ruin Kyler. And my sister, she actually lives in Baltimore. She has Ravens season tickets. Lamar's on his way down. They're always hurt because they have these white coaches, and then they have these white offensive coordinators, and come hell or high water, my offensive plan is going to work, even though the quarterback you have is not going to be conducive to what you have going on, but you know what they're capable of, but you don't want to, loosen up the reins or basically admit you don't know what you're doing. Like Matt Nagy in Chicago, prime example, should have never been there and ruined almost everybody who was on that team. So back to my point, these Black quarterbacks have to run for their lives. They end up getting hurt, and then you get the narrative, well, Black quarterbacks are just not the same. They don't have arms. They can't do this. They can't do that. You didn't let them.
Right. Here's where I agree with you. You're right. Now, I'm sort of torn with the Cam Newton thing because I do agree with you. They didn't put enough pieces around Cam to make Cam successful. They had a garbage offensive line. He didn't always have enough weapons. Now, however, Cam took a lot of hits that he should have never taken. That wasn't always on the coaches. They used to tell Cam not to, they told him stop taking so many hits. That was partially on Cam's fault. But I do agree with you that Cam got hurt because they didn't give him the proper offensive line. And, the whole issue with the mental health of men feeling like they're not adequate or enough. What's been the story of your father and your brother, and maybe your brother, he can come on and talk about it as well, being in Charlotte, because I'm in the Tar Heel State, the greatest state in the union, by the way, and I am a Panther fan. But what does your brother say about this whole debacle? I would love to hear from him and you together. And what do you think it's going to do to the city of Charlotte?
Because I think he's on somebody's stream now because I hear him talking. He's on the phone, but he's on somebody's stream.
Okay, that's cool.
But I mean, he was like, we as Black people, again, we always have to, it used to be drilled into us that, you have to be better. You have to be better, and, don't not really expect, but don't be devastated when you get less than. So, I mean, him as a Black man, even my dad in his career, he worked at the Federal Reserve. It was opportunities that supposedly came but he's passed over for somebody who didn't even have any experience in what the position was for. But then you come to my dad to train you. Like I go through that myself.
Right. I agree with you 100%. That's happened to me before being a black male, and so a lot of folks will say, oh, y'all always want to use the race card, but I say it's BS. Listen, I'm not saying everything is the race card, but people don't think that racism plays a role in hiring and firing. They're damn delusional. I've been through it. Yeah. And, being a graduate at a very elite school, you're right. You always have to prove yourself. I've been through issues when I taught school, getting discriminated against because of my height, because I'm 6'5". Having to prove yourself, or them being intimidated, or because I am too educated, they're trying to find a way to sabotage you, and they will find things to try to fire me. That's why I resonate so much with Steve Wilks, and it does hurt me because I wanted Steve Wilks to get this job, and I'm not against Frank Reich. I think Frank Reich is going to be okay. Hopefully, he'll be okay. But I love
my things. He gonna have to now. He gonna have to convince all those players what came out publicly all over this city for Steve. He gonna have to convince them.
Well, some of the players are coming out saying they thought that the older players, they thought it was a good hire, but it burns me up because they keep saying Tepper wanted the offense coordinator. Let me ask you a question, offensive minded.
Tepper, you don't know what you're doing. So he doing too much. But one thing you just mentioned about your height, that was another thing my dad used to talk about because he's 6'3", and it would be the him because he was taller than everybody else, he was intimidating.
Right.
So as soon as you say something and then you ask for someone's opinion and he gives his opinion, now it's he's intimidated because he's taller than everybody.
Oh, so your dad went through that?
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy. How did that impact the family, Almanaz, in your opinion? How did that impact the family, and how did your dad's struggles play a role in you all's brokenness also in the family? What hurt and pain did you get from your father, and how was that transmitted to you and your brother, when he knew that he got passed over opportunities? Because it does more or less reinforce that you're not good enough. It does reinforce, in some ways, racial white supremacy. And once again, I'm not saying, everything is about race. But this is what I believe, Almanaz. I believe some of these white coaches, consciously and unconsciously, as long as you're serving, then it's fine. But see, men are competitive by nature. And so some of these coaches, they never had a black man to tell them what to do. Some of these owners have never been told anything by black men, but they've always told black men stuff. The damn thing I could never understand, how the hell you going to hire Matt Rule, a clown that never had no NFL coaching experience? You give him this big contract, but then you got Steve Wilks that had some experience. And yes, he was 3-13 in Arizona, but that wasn't fair.
But you can't really put that on him.
Right. No, I agree with you. He had a garbage team. They could have gave him at least 2 to 3 more years to prove himself, like they give everybody else. And then Matt Rule basically was never over 500 at Carolina, but when it come down to the Panthers and their situation, it's almost like some would say they didn't think that Steve Wilks was going to do as good as he did. What's your take on that?
They didn't. That was the sentiment here in Charlotte. Like, I mean, because he actually grew up in the neighborhood I live in now. Okay. So I mean, we knew what he could do, but yeah, it was he's just a placeholder. It's really not gonna get any better. People stopped going to the games, but then when they started, winning a little bit, especially when they got to the end, where they still had an opportunity to make the playoffs. But let's be honest, they didn't make the playoffs because their boy took his helmet off in the middle of the play. That's what happened. Had they won that game, they would have been good.
Yeah, that's
so. That's not Steve's fault. That was somebody else's fault.
But even with my man Moore, the NFL is inconsistent with that helmet rule. So
I'll give you that. Yeah, and that's another thing. Like the officiating, like what was it? Was it Christmas? Was it Christmas or was? I think it was one of the Christmas games was the first time there had ever been a completely black officiating crew. Right. The NFL is like, what, 53 years old?
Right.
Are y'all serious? The first time? Pitiful. It's just pitiful. But I think another problem is, as black people, especially like our millennials, our younger black people, they feel like any little bit is enough.
Right.
And it's not.
Right. It's not. I totally agree. when you see these young offensive coordinators, white offensive coordinators getting positions and being interviewed, Kellen Moore, no more than 34.
Where has he coached?
Right. And they consider him being a head coach.
Yeah, they've been trying to sneak him in for a couple of seasons. They've been trying to.
Is that insulting to you, in your opinion?
It is highly, because you have, again, so many. Even if we went to, non-black coaches, it's more qualified people than Kellen Moore. Like, let's stop playing. But when you see people like Joe Lombardi and I keep wanting to call him San Diego, in Los Angeles, you have no idea what you're doing, but you're there because of your last name.
Mm-hmm.
Like, no. There were plenty of other people who could have had that spot who were actually qualified, and they probably would still be in the playoffs today had they not been messing with him. But these offensive coordinators, defensive coordinators, like if you look at Tampa Bay and Todd Bowles, he never should have been fired from the Jets. He never had anything to work with at all.
Right.
And then, the only way he can get back in is to, be a defensive coordinator. And then if Bruce Arians hadn't retired, he'd still be doing that. He wouldn't have the head coaching spot. And I'm sure if they don't do anything next year, they're going to figure out how to take it from him again.
Well, I agree with you. I do like Frank Reich, but I think he should have been the offense coordinator and Steve Wilks should have been the head coach.
He needs to migrate his way on back. He needs to migrate his way on back to Philadelphia. But for what Jeff Saturday did, they could have stayed with Frank Reich.
Right. They could have stayed with Frank Reich. I totally agree. I'm going to show you some Armanaz, and this is going to add fuel to the fire. And you tell me what you think in this debacle. Hold tight. I'm going to read this, and we're going to break this thing down. Hold tight. Let me see if I can find it. So the Panthers' recent hiring of Frank Reich's daughter could be an issue in Steve Wilks litigation. We're going to break this down. Then we're going to get back to what's going on in the city of Charlotte and how the people of Charlotte are actually frustrated over this whole debacle. All right, so hold tight. So Panthers recent hire Frank Reich, daughter could become an issue in Steve Wilks litigation. After the Panthers hired Frank Reich to be the team's next head coach, the lawyer representing former intern Steve Wilks strongly implied that the Panthers would be added to the pending litigation against the NFL and multiple teams over racial discrimination in hiring practices. For Wilks, the argument could be that that racial bias infected the process and that the Panthers shied away from Wilks, at least in part of the fact that he sued the Cardinals for racial discrimination. What's your take on that? And I'm going to read the rest.
Okay. I don't think the lawsuit really had anything to do with it, because those owners have already gotten together at their annual meetings and figured out how they're going to bury this in litigation till we'll all be exhausted Social Security before they get it worked out. So I don't think that was really an issue, but I was saddened when Brian Flores, he got the shaft in Miami. He didn't have anything to work with either.
Right.
Filed the lawsuit and there wasn't more participation. Those two were not the only two who had ever experienced that. But, as my daddy say, you can't expect all males to be men. I'm like, well, you got a point.
Right, fair point.
Especially the ones who haven't, where you felt like, I'm not going to say anything, so I'm going to get a job. Okay, well, when you figured out you didn't get a job, it's time to talk.
Right. That said, Wilson and his lawyers want to explore whether and to what extent it was known that Frank Reich was destined to become the head coach with his daughter when his daughter was offered and or accepted the job. Was it a done deal, a fait accompli, that the Panthers were hiring Frank Reich to be the coach when the Panthers hired Reich's daughter? What's your take on that?
That's how they operate.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, let me say not they, because most races, because they can, come together and get things done. That's how they operate. So yeah, it was a all inclusive. Yeah, everybody come on and we gonna, do what we do. But again, black people, we sticking with black people, should have known that the Panthers was down for the foolishness and the bull jive when they got the transgender up in there. That's disrespectful to the black women of Charlotte.
Right. No, I respect
There's no
that.
place for that. So
But-
I knew then he was going to turn this into some kind of clown show. So, and then with the whole debacle with the training facility in Fort Mill, I actually work in Fort Mill.
Hold tight, 'cause I'm going to talk to you about hold tight, Armanaz. So I'm going to play the devil's advocate. The devil's advocate would say, well, he hired a transgender, to be on the team, and he did give Wilkes a chance as an interim. But when I say that's BS, because putting a transgender or a gay guy on your team,
squad.
that's not power. That doesn't represent any damn power. But when you make a black man a head coach long term, that symbolizes power. And I stand firm in what I said. Historically, when it comes down to power or competition between white men and black men, and I'm not saying all, it's been a problem. It's happened to me when I taught school, when I was around some of these white principals. It was a problem. They would always say you're intimidating or you speak well and all this goofy ish. There was gender issues that I had to deal with many times. And you had to more or less diminish yourself to make them feel comfortable. Something I never did. That's why I never stuck around. And so let me finish reading this, and I want you to talk about this because it seems like to me that, what's his name? Tepper's damn all over the place.
He is.
Right.
He is.
It became, it will require a careful review of the electronic trails paperwork along with the questioning of those involved in the process. The argument would be if the fact supports the notion that it was right all along and that the interview process was a sham. I can see that. That's one of the major themes of the entire litigation. The Rooney Rule compliance occurs simply as a matter of perfunctory box checking, meaning it's practical. And that, as a result, is worthless and pointless. Interviews occur at a time when the owner already knows what the owner plans to do. Mm-hmm. That's what makes the hiring of Frank Reich's daughter relevant. When she offered the job, did the team already know that Reich would be the next head coach? If the answer is no, it's just another issue that needs to be explored as part of the lawsuit. If the answer is yes, any claim Wilkes makes against the Panthers suddenly becomes stronger. What's your take on that? And do you think that they were chiding Wilkes because he was part of the lawsuit? Go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I don't necessarily think it was because of the lawsuit, but they were jiving him. Like I said, I'm in Charlotte, and folks have been on the head coach watch since the last second ticked off the clock. Nobody has been, I'm like literally 10 minutes from uptown Charlotte. Nobody has snuck in here for an interview. One of the players from the soccer team died unexpectedly. So last we saw, Tepper and his wife was going to New York for that. So when were you doing these 9 interviews with these 9 candidates, and who were they? See, it's crap. The whole it's crap. Because we've been on head coach watch since the beginning. Nobody has snuck through Charlotte Douglas that somebody didn't know about. Nobody's been here. We didn't even catch Frank. So y'all just did this on the telephone? It doesn't make any sense because there was like no conversation to him, no mention to him. Like I said, he ain't been in North Carolina. We can tell. And now you're the coach. For all we know, this could have been done 2 weeks after he got fired out of Indianapolis.
Right. So
like I said, Tepper is all over the place because if you're supposed to be grieving your soccer player, then when did you do these interviews? Because it was on the news when you got on your plane and left. We never did see you come back. So what's going on?
Right. No, I totally agree with you. And it's unfortunate because my heart goes out to Steve Wilkes. I'm sure he's hurt. Dave Tepper did say he would have to do a super job, incredible job. Well, what he did to me was damn near incredible considering
he did that and more because he had nothing. And the players that he had, half of them had already checked out. He did a lot.
Right. Do you think the players are going to respond to Frank Reich, or you don't know?
I think it'll be a few who will, because Frank's a cool dude. He's all right, but it's gonna be a minute before they get over the fact Steve not there, because he's not coming in any capacity, so he's just gone. So it's gonna be a minute before they really be like, he ain't coming back. We gonna have to make a decision about what we gonna do. So I'm not looking for too much more from them for what we got last year.
Yeah, go ahead.
And I say it might be a situation to where Tepper's gonna have to go for this team to get back to being decent. Because for all what he's done, why do Richardson could have stayed? For all what Tepper has done. If we wanted chaos and losing and disrespecting black people, then the man should have never been forced to sell his team in the first place.
Right.
You just traded one for the other.
Yeah. Some say that they feel like that Tepper, he just does things on a whim. He don't think things through. Like when he bought Cam back, when he
he should have never let Cam go, and I'm glad Cam made him pay because he was trying to pay Cam like $1.5 million. I'm glad Cam made him pay. You gonna use me? Because what happened was people were starting going. Like you could literally go to the transit center and buy tickets to the game for $10.
Are you serious?
I'm real serious. Yeah.
Wow.
It was bad, and then like people would come, and they really because a lot of times your money is in your concessions. Like they wouldn't really buy anything. Nobody's wearing paraphernalia, and as soon as the Panthers get down, they would leave. If you're real people who watch and pay attention to games and stuff, it would be the national game, and it would look like Bank of America Stadium was actually the opposing team stadium because that's all was there.
Right.
Because like selling your tickets to the opposing team, that literally is how these people got paid and was paying off their season tickets because they was like, I don't want to see this trash.
Right. Do you feel like a lot of these liberal groups harmonize, and then we're going to talk about this debacle with the practice facility in Fort Mills. But do you believe that some of these liberal groups use black folks as a means to push their agenda? But then once they get in a position of power, then they forget all about them. And so explain how.
Yeah, it's a lot of lip service. Like, cause you can either look at the lone head coach in the NFL, Mike Tomlin. In Pittsburgh. Now, anybody who didn't know, Tepper used to be part owner of the Pittsburgh Steelers. He had to sell that piece to buy Carolina. So you already knew what, the Rooneys was trying to do and, trying to be progressive and look out, for us. Cause they had their little spell of, they gave, what's his name? Cowher credit for stuff he didn't do. They made him one of the greatest coaches all time on the back of Jerome Bettis. But anyway, so I think when these coaches get a crumb, instead of, acknowledging that it's a crumb and, running rings around these white boys, so to speak, they just get in there and be like, I'm just going to do what I got to do to get mine, but they still end up getting shafted in the first place. So my thing is come authentically you.
But when people keep saying he didn't make the playoffs, I don't think the playoffs got a damn thing to do with it. Yes, the NFL is very competitive. Yes, it's very competitive. But black folks have always had to make a delicacy out of chitlins. In slavery, they got the whole pig and everything, and black folks got the feet, the ears, and the head, and the guts, and made a meal. We have always had to make chitlins out of leftovers, or make a meal out of leftovers. And when it is weird how some white people don't see what other blacks see. And once again, I'm going to say it again. I'm not saying everything is, I think sometimes black folks overuse the race card.
Yes, absolutely. And use it at the wrong time.
At the wrong time, right. But if they don't think that there's some underlying racialized components to harm black
they're crazy.
And that black folks, they're damn crazy. And see, they don't understand it because they don't live it.
It's hard to explain. And sometimes it's kind of hard to, like, I'll have this conversation with my grandfather. My mom's dad, because he, lives like 20 minutes from here. And he's like 85. So, we'll talk to him about how things are different now versus, in his day. And it's hard for them to understand. So they, kind of feel like, because like my grandparents were actually the first black couple to be served in a restaurant in Charlotte, North Carolina, once they started letting black people come in the restaurant and eat. So they grew up in that time, we really can't do anything. If we really try to do something, we probably gonna lose our lives, to where they feel like, people my age, I'm 44, we just, do whatever, and really haven't been in any real racism. But we're like, the racism has taken on a whole different, it's a whole different vibe. Like, it's, Back in their day, it was physical racism. Now we got economic racism. We got emotional racism. We got mental racism. You trying to convince us that there's 7 and 8 genders and all this different kind of stuff. Like it's so many more ways
I
to.
see your point. Right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, to what I'm saying, impose your will versus they just kind of beat the daylights out of them back in the day. It's different, but
right. Well,
I think a lot of times with black people using the race card, for me, what I noticed, most of these people haven't done the work. You wanted something, you didn't put in the work, you didn't get it, and then you want to holler racist.
Right. I agree with that. Right. Mm-hmm. Right. I agree with that. Somebody said that Wilkes won more games than Frank did this year with less talented roster. Wilkes also wasn't given a fair chance to show he can have a high-ranked offense with a decent quarterback. But he did develop a top 10 rushing attack after losing. Come on. Broke 2
because they dropped 300 yards on somebody.
Right.
That was Detroit. They put 300 on the ground on them. Mm-hmm. It was teams that didn't have 300 yards of offense total.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I mean, Steve, he's a good coach. I'm gonna say he is a good coach. But then to me, it looks like he just has like that extra ability to, reach these players and get just a drop more out of them than they really wanted to give in the first place.
I agree. Yeah, that's the part I liked about. I thought Wilkes could have got more out of the players, and that plays a role. Some say, he was just defensive minded. And I'm not saying that Tepper didn't want a defensive coach. Offensive coach. I think that was part of it. But I do think that some of these coaches these owners come in with their own biases. And they, like I said, when it come down to power, many times it's a problem. They can't handle the power thing. And so I'm torn because it's sort of subtle. Part of me think it could be an underlying racialized component. But part of me think that it's not. So I'm sort of torn on it. But we do know if you got 32 teams and only one black head coach, that's a problem.
There's a problem.
That's a problem.
For me, even the head coach part ain't enough. I want some black general managers because they're the ones who can talk to these owners and hire these black coaches. We need more representation because without Ozzie Newell, he left last year? That was Baltimore's GM. Who else is a black GM? In the NFL, let me think. Okay, they just hired the dude in Chicago, so he don't count. Right. But no, because he not even gonna be the GM. He gonna be the assistant vice president or something. And then the dude they got now, the Post, he cut 4-5 different times, so I don't really consider him representation for black people.
This person asked, and shout out to my man, Official GZ since 19. Shout out to you, brother. How's there racism in NFL when most of the players are black? I said earlier because
they play. That's all they do.
Right, they play and they bring their money. If they come play or bring their money, they won't be in the league. But when it comes down to positions of power, you don't have enough black coaches. Look at Eric Bieniemy. You can't convince me.
Another one. Stop interviewing and put an end to this.
You can't convince me a guy that won the Super Bowl.
Because but they want to give Andy Reid credit for that. That's not Andy Reid because that was the year that Andy Reid didn't call any offensive plays. Then after they won the Super Bowl and he went back to sticking his nose in their business, now they having problems.
Right. That's good.
Let brother man handle that. He handled that all the way to the championship. He good. He don't need you.
So it sounds like to me when it come down to service, then we don't mind you coming on. But when it come down to power, and that's why I said once again, these black coaches, black players were not bringing them money and revenue. They won't be in position. They're not bringing them on because they're black. They're bringing them on because they're making them money. But when it comes down to power, then people don't understand that some owners can use black folks as a token to make them money. But when it come down to putting them in power positions where they're over them or having power position equal or better than them, then that's an ego thing for a lot of men.
Or they're giving it to them to prove some kind of point, but they got all kind of strings and conditions on it. But, because even if you look at the players, what I'm saying? Okay, the players, okay, yeah, most of the players are black, but, they trying hard as they can. If you look every year, they're changing all these rules because if you look at the majority of the phenomenal players in the NFL are on the defensive side of the ball.
Right.
And on the offensive side of the ball, it's getting lighter and lighter and lighter and lighter, especially at this quarterback position. So they tailoring all the rules to the offense. You can't have breathe on them, let alone hit them. So we're going to protect that side of the ball and have the brothers on the defensive side messed up. Mm-hmm. And then, use that as an excuse to, waive them and then, bait them to come back for less money because, they sign these massive contracts, but you have to fulfill the contract to get all of that money.
Right. That's true.
And they always come up with some kind of reason, with some issue, something they did, something they didn't like. You should have done it this way, to where these players don't get that money and you only get paid as long as you're playing. You don't get a check like me. I go to work every week and I get 26 checks a year. They don't. Mm-hmm. You get paid as long as you play. So if you don't have some kind of system in place to make sure your money lasts until it's time for you to get your next check, you messed up. And they know that. They're not going to put these black men in positions to, increase their wealth and actually, know how to play the game and get good at it, because they know if we figure the game out, we're going to take over. So it'll keep you in the needy position in the, you're not as good as, because who better to lead a black man than another black man? That don't even make sense. This whole thing, black men can't lead, because, that's been their mantra for the last couple 4 or 5 years. We just really haven't found a black man that's really, been the type of leader we're looking for. Are you serious?
Yeah,
half these dudes didn't even have a daddy, so that's what they're looking for, is a father figure.
Right, I agree with that. Yeah, that plays a role. Now, I will say this, Armanaz, that I do believe I don't believe that all black folks can lead all black.
No. But it's a lot of them that have been in the NFL arena that could be leading these folks.
Right. But I do understand what you're saying. I think because some of them don't have fathers, and sadly, some of our women choose dusty men to get impregnated by. When they do find a black leader that looks like them, it makes them feel good. It makes them play hard. And I was very proud of Coach Wilkes. I was pulling for him. Once again, I do like Frank Reich. I thought Frank Reich would have been the second. I like Frank Reich. I think he's a good man. But I prefer Steve Wilkes. I prefer Wilkes, and I would like to have seen Reich as the coordinator. Real quick, and I'm going to end the stream. Guys, if you have not donated to the channel, donate to the channel. If you're in need of a clinical consultation, see me at coachtheclinician@gmail.com. But real quick, let's talk about the debacle with the practice facility real quick, Armanaz, and what's going on in Charlotte with that.
I think they've actually settled for a fraction of what it was going to cost to even build this in the first place. That was just he never intended to have that up there. Mm-hmm. That was the vibe, and that was the word on the street, so to speak, from the beginning. And if he had put anything up there that was going to open the doors, it was going to be for that soccer team, because that is what all of this is about. Charlotte always getting used when it comes to sports. Got used with the Bobcats, then I got used with these Hornets, then I got used with the softball, with the baseball team, getting used with the Panthers. That was never gonna happen. And then but he baited Fort Mill in with the let's see how this goes, because I'm looking to move the stadium. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Is what he went up there with. But mm-hmm. Fort Mill's busting at the seams now, so where are you gonna put the stadium? Right.
You got foot's ground on in Charlotte. Do you think they're gonna do a protest, or you don't think it's gonna go to that extreme?
Let me see.
Do you think it's going to cause
conscious, decent black people who have a problem with this? I think they're going to wait until they find out what's happening with this police video that's supposed to be dropped tomorrow with these 5 fools in Memphis. Mm-hmm. I think they're going to take care of that first and weave Steve into that. But I think like a full on, we're not feeling this probably won't come until the season starts.
Right. That's a good point. But I do feel like black folks sometimes can be reactionary. They'll get reactionary when it comes down to a police. We goofy. Well, we stayed on TV. We had 2-3 summers in a row. We stayed on TV for protesting and walking all around the city and shutting down the highway and all this good stuff. So they get mad, but it's cold. They get mad. They'll come out. Right. Well, listen, I enjoyed the conversation. Since anybody else want to come in, if not, I'm going to end the stream. Official GM. I know it's all love, brother. I love you too, brother. Ground Zero movement started back. No doubt. GCM. Yeah. Anybody else want to come through and pop it up? Let me know. I gotta go. If nobody's gonna come on. But guys, if you have not donated to the channel, please donate to the channel before I end the stream. Almanaz brought some good insight to this show about racism, and I did this because I know racism does exist in part. I'm not one to say that racism is causing the lack of progress for many people. Some things it's not about racism, it's about them being lazy and making bad choices. So I'm not one to say, well, blame the white man for everything. I don't believe in that, because if that was the case, then I would have never went to one of the best schools in the country, and I would have never got to where I've gotten at. But anybody else want to come on and add to the conversation? Official GM, if you want to come on, brother, feel free. Anybody else want to come through? I think Almanaz gave a nice and a fair critique. Do you think that the Hornets, the Panthers, do you think it's going to put a lot of pressure on Frank Reich to win right away? Because if he go sub 500,
let them lose 3 games in a row. It's not going to be pretty here in Charlotte at all. Not at all. It wasn't pretty when Cam left. Folks was burning jerseys in the street. So you basically took a crap over homegrown, because literally, like I said, the house he grew up in is like maybe 5 streets over from where I live. He went to West Charlotte, which was literally in my grandparents' backyard. So when I say homegrown, he is homegrown. So yeah, Frank, you think Philadelphia was bad, you lose here and see what happens.
Shout out to my man Brandon J, always showing love. He's up for a great topic at the Coach Clinician. And that's a deal, right? That's a deal, right? That's a deal, right? Always showing love. That's a bet, right? That's a deal, right? That's a deal, right? Let me ask you a question, and Brandon Jet, because you. Hold tight, Brandon. Brandon, because you always show love, Brandon, you are the #1 sponsor of this stream. Thank you, Brandon Jet. Marcus, you want to come through for a minute, brother, feel free to. I'm going to end the stream in a minute, but if you want to add to the conversation, feel free. When you think about the PSLs, and have a lot of people revoked their PSLs, Almanaz, based on what you're hearing?
Over this particular situation, it really ain't been long enough to see, but over Cam leaving here, oh yeah, definitely.
Wow.
But see, the problem is there aren't the real true, I love football, I understand football, I would love to be able to see football in person fans are not the ones up in Bank of America. You got the businessmen, and it's these same type of white men we talking about trying to figure out how to, not let brothers do what they do best. They're using that as their place to conduct business. If you ask them how many yards is on the football field, they couldn't tell you. So the diehards they're not able to go unless, like I say, you're in this situation where you're losing, and then people are basically giving you their tickets. But majority of the people who are in there for they on their first date, they networking. It's everything but football. So
what do you mean everything but football? Break it down.
Like I said, they're doing business deals. They're there to be seen. It's like we're on a date. We just came to hang out. It's not because I'm trying to see this football game. Like, the amount of people you would see that actually have their back turned to the field is ridiculous. You're in a whole press box, and y'all just came to eat, and then the minute the food's gone, you leaving. Like, but we're not even at halftime yet.
Right.
There are not a lot of actual fans who are in there, so the atmosphere isn't really what you would expect. So if you have people who, are coming, like I said, they was able to do something, and it's their first game, they're like, well, this ain't all, I thought it was going to be. So I'm going to just, I ain't going to worry about it. Or people who whatever they were trying to accomplish by having season tickets, once that's accomplished, then yeah, they'll sell the license. Because you have to buy the license, but then you still have to turn around and buy the tickets.
Right. What do you think about them saying that Wilkes came in third place and Kellen Moore was the second favorite pick? You don't believe that?
Well, no. Yeah, I don't believe. First, I don't believe it was 9 candidates. Because again, you went to everybody's house because they didn't come here. So if it was 9, give me the list. I need the list on all 9 because people have been throwing Kellen Moore's name and stuff that he ain't even had nothing to do with. He has come out and been like, I ain't never talked to these people a day in my life. So we might get that same story in September. So who was on this list of 9? Because again, you should have been, even if it was a list of 9, you should have been looking at people who you can prove have outperformed Steve. Steve should have been 1, and then you should have been trying to make sure there was nobody who, you know what I'm saying, had done better, which was going to be hard to do. So I don't think he ever intended to keep Steve as the coach. Well, he didn't think Steve was going to do what he did, but he never really intended to, because he could have nipped all that in the bud while the season was going on. All he had to do was run it through the players' union. They'd have been okay with it.
What do you say to your critics real quick that Steve didn't perform in the last 2 games against Tampa, and he made some questionable decisions, and then also against Pittsburgh?
Honestly, I didn't watch neither one of those games, so I can't really. But I don't think, because the games I did, I tried, y'all. But
so are you still a Panthers fan?
I mean, honestly, Cam gone. I don't really care. But I mean, like my dad is, but I bleed green. I'm sorry, y'all, but that's just what it is.
You're a Philly fan.
So I'll have my TV on. I'll have like my quad screen, and the Panthers are always in one of the blocks, but the biggest block is for the Eagles. That's just what it is. But I think the last 2 games, I think somewhere in the back of his mind he knew. So he was like, let me see what these guys are working with, or let me try to put them in a position to, have some of their best stuff on tape in case, other teams are trying to look at them. But I mean, Tampa, I don't know what happened to them, because I don't think that's enough. Why you didn't get Byron Leftwich? What happened to him?
Yeah, he got fired, but
I'm just saying. So you all about trying to get the best people to come to Carolina. Why you didn't call him up?
Well,
I got questions, Tepper. I got questions.
But they might actually call him. They might actually call Byron Leftwich.
No, I'll be like, don't call me now. I don't want to coordinate no more. I need a head spot. I don't want to coordinate. See, that's the vibe I would be coming with if I was these black men. So they need to call me for some coaching.
Right.
That would be my whole. Yeah, don't entertain any coordinating, any talent scouting, any player motivation, because that's another one. They'll try to throw them a couple $1,000 to come motivate the players. Yeah, don't respond to any of that. If it's not a head coach, a GM, a special assistant to the owner, don't talk about it.
Right. Understood. But listen, I enjoyed the conversation. You had a lot of insight, man. You funny. You're real funny, but very passionate at the same time. And I see 78, so you must be you was born. Okay. Hold my man Marcus coming through real quick. Marcus, go ahead, man. Real quick. Go ahead. How would you like to add to the conversation? Almanaz is doing a great job. But how would you like to add to the conversation, Marcus, real quick? Go ahead, brother.
Yeah, I was she was doing very good.
Doing very good.
With most of her.
Thank you.
Oh, and by the way, Kosha.
Yes, sir.
Before we begin, the kind words you said about to me and when my father died back in last month. Hey man, I appreciate it, man.
Oh yes, sir.
I was gonna reach out to you personally, just let everything haven't had a chance to.
Oh yeah, man. I understand, man. My condolences, brother. I lost my sister last year, and her death would have been like almost. Well, we're actually encroaching almost a year. It seemed like it was yesterday. And she would have been gone for a whole year. So my heart and my condolences go with your family, man. You can't throw away legacy. And my dad is 79, and I know you said your dad was around in his 80s.
80.
And yeah. I know at some point my dad going to expire. So my heart goes out to you, man. But what do you think about this whole Carolina situation, man? Do you think they did Steve Wilkes wrong? I thought he should have been at least been the head coach. Break it down, because some will say, "Oh, they're using the race card and and all that BS." But you being a black man, I'm sure you've experienced racism to some degree. I've experienced it. Meaning it's never good enough. Talk about your never good enough experience and how it impacted you mentally as a man.
Ooh, dealing with that right now with my career, and it's a clear and obvious answer that this company does not have enough African American and other minority representation. But I just got to deal with it. And still good pay, still good life, still stable. So I still stick with it.
What do you say to your critics? Well, at least they hired you as a black man. What do you say to your critics about that?
What was the question again?
What would you say to your critics that would say, well, they hired you, so you're not dealing with any racial issues because they hired you?
You got to find a way to get in the door somehow. Now, whether it's fair or not, we got to start taking advantage of the opportunities that we get. And we should be getting more opportunities, specifically when it comes to football and the NFL. Because Steve Wilkes, that was very unfair. Panthers were a much different team heading into that playoff run. They handled my Seahawks very, very well. I mean, that defense, the quarterback, he normally isn't that good. I can't think of his name from USC, but man, that team was on an upward trend, and they should have kept Wilkes.
Yeah, I agree, man. I don't. What's your take on the Frank Reich hiring? I mean, I didn't have any issue with Frank Reich. I like him, but do you think he's going to turn the team around, or you think they'll be better offensively but not defensively? Go ahead.
No. Who did he turn around that was that notable in his career? He hasn't won a Super Bowl. I believe he was on the staff with the Eagles, if I remember correctly.
Yeah. He was on the staff.
He was the offensive coordinator when we won.
Yeah,
absolutely. But at the same time, he's getting more opportunities than any other African American will ever get. Lovie Smith should not have been fired in Houston.
That was shameful. But again, that whole Lovie Smith situation, that was their last ditch effort to try to talk Deshaun Watson in the stands. So they used Lovie from the very beginning. So I was glad he won the game and they lost the number 1 pick, because that was foolishness. Now there should have been much more outrage over that than I would say this, because that was mess from the very beginning. But black people let that kind of stuff slide and be like, well, I mean, they really wasn't winning, and then go and riot in the streets about somebody who got murdered by the police in the middle of committing a crime. Like we put our energy in the wrong place. We should still be mad about that.
Too much reaction and not enough being proactive on certain issues like these. Absolutely, I agree.
Exactly.
Yeah. Right. Do you think that with Wilkes being part of this class action lawsuit with Brian Flores, do you think it's going to hurt Wilkes' chances of getting future jobs?
I don't know about future jobs. I got a feeling he could still get some coordinator jobs, other head coaching jobs at even at different levels if he wants to continue, maybe even college or something. But head coaching jobs, I'm not 100% certain on that. I doubt it.
Right. Real quick, talk about, you talked about the mental health distress of having to prove that you're good enough. How's that impacted your self-esteem, and how did you cope? Because some men turn or implode within. But if you don't mind saying in part, what are some of the things you've been dealing with? You share what you want to share that could be systemic racism, to say the least, being a black man.
Oh, that's easy. I do a lot of self-help. I do an evaluation of myself very harshly, kind of like a Kevin Samuels would do. You got to be able to work on your weaknesses, and I do that through audiobooks, YouTube videos. I really want to get a mental coach to work on that mental health part of things. I actually remember I was going to reach out to you, but I remember you said something about it might not work with the state that I'm in versus the state you're in, if I remember correctly.
But you can do a consultation. We can definitely consult, but a consultation is not a diagnosis. Two different things. If I can't diagnose you, but I can give you parameters around whatever issue you're dealing with. That's the succinct difference. If I diagnose you, then I got to treat you and potentially give you medication. I can't do that unless I get licensed in your state. But I can consult with you, and we can talk about issues and parameters and come up with viable solutions, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. And it's all about having the right team around you. You got to have someone that can be able to point out your weaknesses, something that you need to work on, enhance your strengths. And at the same time, help you keep that consistency that will make you a better person, whether it be professional, physical, going to see the doctor, whatever you need to do. You need to have that team of people around you. Financial, someone helping with your finances, stuff like that.
Fair enough. Well, listen, we're going to end this stream. Marcus B., much love and blessings. Thank you for tuning in, man. Once again, my condolences. Armanaz, you did a good job, man. You passionate. Really enjoyed the conversation, man. You fired up, man. You know,
Absolutely.
You look like you're short, Armanaz. How tall are you, Armanaz? About 5'4"?
5'8".
Oh, you 5'8"?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. You used to hoop? You used to hoop back in the day?
I'm 5'8".
You never played sports?
No, I watch them. I don't play.
Oh, you don't play? Okay, cool. Did you play for schools? School in Charlotte? Did you play in high school, or did you attend school in Charlotte?
I went to Independence. Well, I graduated from Independence.
Oh, Independence. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
But yeah, I didn't play.
Okay, yeah. You probably remember a time when Independence won all them state championships, man. But Independence used to get it in. But anyway, I'm thanking Armanaz.
All the way in. I'm
going to end this stream. Marcus, thank you. And Armanaz, thank you for tuning in. And also to the people that tuned in. I know it's late. I don't like doing these streams this late because it don't really normally be good turnouts. But it is what it is. But thank you for tuning in, sis. And guys, we will be ending this stream. And thank you to Brandon Jett for being the #1 sponsor. And guys, we'll sign it off. Thank you, dear.
All right. Have a good night. Thanks.
Yes, ma'am. All right. Bye-bye. All right, guys, we're going to end the stream on tonight. Thank you guys for tuning in. And this has been another one of the Manhood Chronicles and the Kosher Clinician. Guys, signing off. And once again, guys, get your mental health right. And don't let stress or distress cause you to fall in a state of depression. Be well.
Money line, I'ma run it every time. Give me mine, going up, need no decline. Money line, I'ma run it every time. Give me mine, going up, need no decline. Yeah. Why check Castro, yeah, I need my ass. Why check Castro, yeah, I need my money line. Why check Castro, yeah, I need my money line. Why check Castro, yeah, I need my money line. Watch out for those who surround you, need no funny kind. You can't see what's on my brain, I live inside my mind. Out of space and out of sight, you need me in my line. Need no face, don't need no phonies, no. Need no snakes, no only homies down for show. On go. Get a book and get the front and we load up and roll. I got kids, yeah, I got staff, I make a little need more. I sell records, you sell packs, not on my level, no. I'm a pop star, I'm a rock star, I'm a winner. Think I'm not hard, you smoke rock hard waste, man, why you dumb? I'm with airline, we on airlines like we on the run. I'm with Tay, girls run up on me, they done. Money line, I'ma run it every time. Give me mine, going up, need no decline. Money line, I'ma run it every time. Give me mine, going up, need no decline. Yeah. Why check Castro, yeah, I need my ass. Why check Castro, yeah, I need my money line. Why check Castro, yeah, I need my money line. Why check Castro, yeah, I need my. I ran up a check, I might do it again. Enemies close, had me thinking they're friends. 10 toes down, I'll be free until the end. Crib outside the city, I don't feel safe in my hands. Took so many years, I'm just waiting for the wins. I'm in debt to no one but the one who took my sins. I do it for real, there's no reason to pretend. If I do it once, I do it again. Add it up, bankroll, euro, peso, add it up, I'm just doing me, everything's on me, no you matter what. add it up. Bankroll, euro, peso, add it up. I'm just doing me, everything is on me. Oh, you matter what? Add it up. Told her if it's all me, everything is on me. Gon' back it up. Matter what? Told you I'ma do me. Why you hating on me? It's not adding up. I do roll.
Have you been distressed or perplexed? Emasculated. A book written by Edward Fields IV. Everything that needs to be known about men in modern time. Listen, men are not complex. They are misunderstood and unappreciated. Learn what men really feel, think, and desire. Also observe their struggle for acceptance, love, and belonging. A must read for every man in this classic book by Edward Fields IV. Emasculated. Go get your copy now.